We invite you to share your story with us so that we can take your story and use it to be able to fight for you. I am Dwayne Royster. I am here today hosting the Power Hour along with our special guest, Selena Singleton, host of the Spicy Pecan podcast, who I actually had a chance to watch live a little bit on this weekend. And digital media organizer for Power Interfaith, who's sitting in for the Reverend Dr. Mark Kelly. Tyler, how are you today?
I am doing good. Good morning, Power Hour family, Bishop, Kawesa. Hope everybody's doing well this morning. Excited to be here.
Awesome, awesome. And the queen that keeps us on the air to make sure everything runs smoothly, who battles the traffic to make it all the way to the studio every single Monday through Friday. Let's hear it, Queen Kawesa. How are you today?
I am well. How are the both of you doing?
Doing good, doing good. Man, you sound energetic for a Monday.
You really do. I need some of that.
Come on now. What you do on the weekends?
Not too much, but I did see family. The other day got to spend some time with my brother and his girlfriend, and just we had Sunday dinner, which we haven't had in a long time, and it was really good food, and so I think that's probably why I'm a little happier today. I had good food.
I got you. All right. So you had the traditional Sunday dinner together. Did your mom cook and everything?
Actually, my brother's girlfriend cooked for us, and it was delicious. And so,
awesome.
Yeah, it was really tasty. She made like stuffed shells, and it was homemade sauce that was created. And I'm like, homemade sauce, you're fancy. And then she made,
girlfriend.
I know,
making a good impression on the fam.
Yeah, exactly. And she made some peach cobbler, and I do not like peach cobbler. I am not a fan, but she made it so good. I would go back for seconds. I would.
I am a fan of peach cobbler. I'm just going to be honest with you. I love some peach cobbler, so I get it. That's all good. Well, listen, tell me about your ride today. It couldn't have been that bad if you sound this good.
No, it really wasn't bad at all. Minimal traffic. The biggest thing for me is, it's like muggy and sticky. That's, as soon as you walk out the door, it hits you. It really does. So, and I think it's supposed to rain a little bit later on today. So maybe like bring an umbrella with you if you're in the area. But yeah, the traffic was fine for me this morning. I didn't really have any issues, but that weather, man, I tell you, I'm not feeling it.
This is the frizz out weather, just.
Yes, Lord.
I got you on that one. Well, hey, just to remind everybody, there is a heat advisory out for today that it could feel like with the heat index up to 102 at points during the course of the day. So please be careful out there. Drink plenty of water. Stay in the shade if possible. If you're in your house, turn fans on if you don't have air conditioning. If you need to try to find a place to get cool, please do that and make sure you're safe. And check on your neighbors at the same time. That will be very helpful for everyone, just to make sure that you are good to go. So appreciating that you all are out there trying to take care of yourselves today. And Selena, how are you making out in all this heat?
Doing good. Like I said, I work for a really cool organization. I don't have to leave the house. So I'm doing cool right now.
I hear you.
No frizz yet.
No frizz yet. I ain't mad at you. Well, that's cool. Well, listen, hey, I just want to start our time today by just talking about something. This is something I just saw this morning. Didn't get a chance to send it to you. But over the weekend, in Charlottesville, they finally took down the Confederate statue that had been the site of all the controversy. I remember a couple of years ago when there was a big rally, white supremacy rally in Charlottesville, and there were, guys marching around with tiki torches like they did in Philly just a couple of weeks ago. Well, they didn't have tiki torches, though. And as the Robert E. Lee statue was taken down in Charlottesville, it only took, 4 years for them to figure that out.
Yeah.
I don't understand. Help me understand. Why it took 4 years to remove the statue?
I mean, think about the line that they said when they were marching. You will not replace us.
Yeah.
You
Oh, wow.
will not
That's really true.
replace us.
Yeah.
And this is their fear. We are going to pluck apart these pieces. They've lulled us into a lullaby that is being torn down, and for them, it is devastating.
Wow. Actually, so that makes so much sense. Now that I'm thinking about like this whole fight around critical race theory, because there's a article that was out that just talked about the other day, where there's a school district in Arizona that they have been using a special program to help Mexican American children get through schooling, do better education wise, that has been shut down because of critical race theory. So they were concerned deeply about Mexican American students not succeeding, not excelling in school. And as a result of that, they created this program. The students' numbers started to go up. They were
Hmm.
graduating at a higher rate. They were actually getting, more engaged in the educational process. And as a result of critical race theory, they've had to shut the program down because white folk out in Arizona were concerned that the students were being taught things to hate white people. And this was an article coming out of Politico about, they were doing this. This is the Tucson Unified School District, Tucson, Arizona. He said that they're teaching, they had a speaker come to the school who happens to be Dolores Huerta, who is a very famous labor organizer and feminist organizer. And she said Republicans hate Latinos. And so now, and I mean, speakers have a right to their opinion.
Right.
I mean,
Kanye West said it. George Bush hates black people.
yes. And, uh, you know, they might not have been too far from the truth. So the as a result of this, they decided to pull this program, which was really helping a lot of students. It was a Mexican American Studies program, and absolutely ridiculous. And so I think it just goes back to what you were saying, that there's this sense that white folk feel, well, at least white supremacists feel like that we're trying to replace them.
Absolutely. White people are the standard in this country. Everything that we see, every show we see, every piece, they are the standard. They, no one wants to be taken off their square. No one wants to have that power taken away. And the scariest part to them is that it works. The point of critical race theory is to highlight the accomplishments of minorities. And in doing so, enriching the learning experience as we saw the numbers went up for these students. So we know that it works. That is terrifying for them. Absolutely terrifying. It's one thing to say, hey, if we teach the, people the truth, this will happen. But it's showing that it actually does work. And this is not a good news story if you are on the side of white supremacy. It is easier to, again, lullaby everybody.
Right. Well, I mean, I think that that's part of the thing, right? So there is this notion. I mean, this. I mean, to me, in some ways, this actually speaks to the fragility of some white folk. I'm not saying all white folk, right? But some white folk are extremely fragile in their orientation, and as a result of that, they can't handle, a reallocation was in a reinvigoration of a fuller history. Right. It's not like even we're not telling white history in this country anymore because it would be virtually impossible to do that. But what we are doing is putting it in its proper context and then talking about how racism, white supremacy manifests itself in the structure of the country, so that we have the country that we do today. Because I think white folk, I mean, in this, again, it's not all white people, but I think a lot of them, most majority of them, benefited from the system. But that there's a particular challenge here in that folk have believed the lie that the struggle of black and brown and Asian Pacific Islanders and indigenous folk and biracial folk is our own fault.
Right.
And they have not examined the fact that there have been structural impediments put in the way, whether it's by law, whether it's by policy, or whether it's, just by social construct to prevent us from being able to thrive and from being able to live our full best lives. There have been attempts and working every single day to make sure that Black, Brown, Asian Pacific Islander, Indigenous folk, biracial folk do not get what white folk get in this country. And
Yeah,
I think somehow or another we have lost sight of that. We have lost that somehow or another we want to believe a lie. And I think it's easy for folk who have been privileged to believe a lie.
absolutely. You don't have to lift a finger and I get to keep all my things and not feel bad? Of
Yeah.
course. Of
Yeah.
course. Who wants to actually examine the history of their family and see, what contributions they've made to the problem? No one wants to do that. No one wants to retrograde and figure out how their family possibly owes money to, from stolen land or whatever the case is. No one wants to do that. This is going to always be a kicking and screaming match. America has a very bad problem with telling the truth.
Mm.
We just do. We always have. We have a terrible problem with telling the full story.
Wow.
You know,
Wow.
it just
That's
is.
it.
I mean, think about it. Look, you take something like Easter
Hmm.
and you throw an Easter bunny in it, Santa Claus, you throw this jolly white man in it. We take everything of significance and just boil it down into something that is meaningless.
Mm. Wow. Wow. I mean, how are you contending with this? I mean, in the circles that you travel, are folk talking about this at all?
Uh, I don't think it's hitting as big. We're talking about it. Regular everyday people like family members and people like that are not really talking about critical race theory right now. But once it starts to really hit the schools, once the kids start to once it starts to become a little more localized, I can imagine. Again, I don't have children, so this isn't something that I'm going to constantly bump up against. So for me, this is just more of a theoretical, type
Well,
of.
it's outside of critical race theory, but I've been home all weekend, and I've actually watched television, which I haven't done in weeks. Just really haven't had the time to do it, and I've been noticing the numbers of ads for black television shows that are just all over
Mm,
the place. So even when the TV's off but the cable box is still on, like they run screens of advertisements and stuff like that. And I've just seen a lot of black shows being advertised. When check on some of the paid streaming services, and some of the shows that are popping up immediately are African American shows, which is actually kind of cool. So there is this sensitivity, at least in the marketplace, that we've got to reevaluate how we're doing some things, because actually when you deal with African American dollars, it's one of the largest economies in the world, right?
absolutely.
It's like I think it's like number 10 or something like that. It's just a huge dollar factor. So when you start to realize that if you want to economically prosper, you better market towards black folk in this country, because we tend to be consumers at a very high rate. Primarily because of our economic condition, we're almost 100% consumers. So you're vying for the attention of folk that are going to pretty much spend every dime that they have. And you need to you better put some stuff towards them and let them know that you care about them.
Yeah, I mean that is true, but I mean in the past we've seen they've taken our dollars and served us up anything. I mean,
Yeah.
we're just now starting to see more diversity in cast with LGBT and, minorities and things like that. I love the fact that they're highlighting more shows. I think that that's fantastic. But I mean, black media has always been extremely profitable. Black music, black fat, everything that, what we do is extremely, extremely profitable, but that does not stop them from undermining it and undervaluing it. Our dollar's not respected.
No, because they'll advertise our stuff, but then treat us badly when we go to work for them, which is a
Absolutely.
whole nother story. Well, look, we're going to continue this. We're up on our first break here. And we appreciate everybody that's checking in with us this day so far. It's good to see Cheryl, Craig, some of Deborah, Edith, Eastland, Jacqueline, Bishop Dr. Peggy Kendricks out there, Mabel Wellborn is out there. Ed Minner's out there today. Kenrick Talbot, we see you out there. Listen, if you're listening to us on Facebook or on YouTube, why don't you give us a quick shout out so we can just shout your name out and say thank you for listening to the Power Hour each and every morning. And do us a favor, if you're watching on Facebook, hit that share button. Invite your family and friends in to join us here on the Power Hour. All right, we actually are up on our break. Before Kwesi gets mad at me, you're listening to Power Hour with Dwayne Royster and special guest co-host Selena Singleton, who will be right back.
The Sweet Treat Hut is the highest rated juice bar in Philly, located on the corner of 50th and Thompson Streets, providing delicious, healthy vegan food, juices, and smoothies. Treat yourself to a cup of happiness. Call 215-877-1471.
You're never completely ready to adopt a teen.
For late nights writing English papers.
For your teen's music taste.
For dinners, where they talk more on their phone than with you.
For the first time, they call you mom.
You're never completely ready to adopt a teen, and you can't imagine the reward.
To learn more about adopting a teen, visit adoptuskids.org.
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
Are you looking for a job? WURD has got you covered. We just launched a brand new job portal featuring jobs from some of Philadelphia's leading companies and arts organizations. If you go to the portal right now, you will see jobs from WURD Radio, the Kimmel Center, Her Foods, Always Best Care, and more. Apply for a job today. Go to our livelihood website at wordworks.com. That's WURDworks.com and click jobs.
You're listening to WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD, independent black media.
Welcome back to the Power Hour. This is Dwayne Royster, along with Selena, special guest co-host Selena Singleton. We're here Monday through Fridays from 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. to bring you the latest news happenings around Philadelphia and, of course, our opinions. And we have plenty of those. And just to say that Dr. Tyler will be back with us on tomorrow morning. He spent a long few days at the AME General Conference and needed a minute. So we decided to give him that, and he will be back with us tomorrow, I'm sure, giving us the stories about everything that happened at the AME General Conference, giving us all the breakdown. And, hey, we just want to shout out Nikki O'Tim, who's on YouTube, and giving us greetings this morning. We see Judge McCabe is out there as well. Bernita Francine is out there, Shalada Sankofa, Stephen Lancaster, Jeanette Connor, and so many more. Keep it out and let us know that you're coming. There's Kenesha Chapman. Good morning. See, Asa Khalif is out there watching with us this morning as well, so we're glad that you are here. And thank you all for checking us out and being here with us on the Power Hour. Okay, so here's the thing. There's a brother in Texas who did time and got out of jail, thought he was ready to go vote, stood in line 7 hours. He was the last person to vote in his precinct in Texas, 62 years old, Hervis Rogers. Stood in line 7 hours so he could vote because he wanted to be a part of the election process. It just so happens that he was still on parole. In Texas, if you're still on parole, you are not eligible to vote. Now they are trying to throw the book at this guy. They are trying to come out. He's a black man, of course, 62-year-old black man who stayed in line 7 hours and went out to vote. His parole was scheduled to end on June 13th, and they and I guess he must have been for the primary, and he went and voted days before his parole was up, and now he's being held in jail on a $100,000 fine because he voted.
The saddest, listen, if I was covering this on my show, there would be a lot of curse words flying, a lot of profanity flying. This is just so sad. Just to think that you did your time, and we're talking about something good that you're doing. and to be penalized in such a harsh way is just, it's incredible to me. But this is a great example of how this goes too far.
Yeah.
And we really do need, unfortunately, we need examples like this to push this forward. What do you think? Do you think they're really going to push it to the max with them?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think they're trying to make a case right now. So, Texas, they had worked to pass a bunch of really draconian voter laws. They went to take the vote, and then all the Democrats disappeared from the state capitol. They could not find anybody. As a result of that, they were unable to take the vote. Although Republicans have the majority, there has to be a certain number to have quorum. They couldn't have quorum without the Democrats being there, so they couldn't vote on anything. So the draconian voting laws could not pass. Hence, now they are now trying to do it again in a special summer session called by the governor to pass these new voting laws again, which are going to be very bad, almost as bad as Georgia's. And similarly to the ones that just got vetoed by the governor in Pennsylvania, that now the Republicans want to put a constitutional ballot initiative out that we as across the state of Pennsylvania would be voting on, which is going to be a real mess. So I think they're using this as an example, like here's voter fraud, right? And so he did vote in the March primary. He could have voted in the general if he had waited to the general election, but he wanted to participate. He was served his time. He wanted to get back out in the community and demonstrate, what it looked like to be a good citizen. He stood in line 7 hours. Man, that was incredible. And now they got him in jail. He's got a $100,000 bond. The Bail Project is working on trying to get him out. This is actually an article that can be found in Huffington Post. But this is ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, it's Jim Crow law.
This is voter intimidation, right? This is like, if you're not sure if you can vote, you better not, because we're going to come get you.
Absolutely. If they can go after a 63-year-old man, they'll go after you as well. This is the perfect deterrence to doing that. But on the flip side, it does show just the egregiousness of it all. So I think that, it can be argued on both sides. But I mean, voter fraud, they caught him. They keep talking about this voter fraud, but they keep catching the little cases, these little tiny.
Well, but even still, the little tiny cases, the majority of them were Trump voters.
Right. Yeah,
I mean,
true.
Some of them were not small. Some of them was like the guy in Florida that was going to Georgia, and he was trying to tell Florida people how they could vote in the Georgia runoff election for the Senate. And he was a lawyer. I'm like, really? You're going to go do this, right? There was like incident after incident of Trumpers that were actually out there violating voting law, and then the attorney generals and the governors are having to contend with the fact that all the people that violated the law were a bunch of Trumpers.
Yeah.
So one guy who has served his time is trying to get out and vote, and we're going to do everything we can to shut it down. And Gary Holland says the irony of the story is that the new voting laws would not have stopped this from happening. That's actually very, very true.
Wow.
Yeah. Ethelyn Baylor saying, textbook, make an example of one, put it on display to scare all the others. Absolutely. And in particular, there's been an attempt to really scare returning citizens that are trying to vote. So a couple of years ago in Florida, they passed a ballot initiative that would give restoration of voting rights to returning citizens. And then the Florida legislature tried to do everything they can to try to strip that, put fines and things back on it, almost, putting like a poll tax on those returning citizens to be able to get their right to vote again. And it's been going back and forth. But what it's done is help to suppress the vote in that community, even though it's been restored, because people are afraid. They don't know what to expect when they get there. They're going to arrest me when I get there. They're going to look up my record. What are they, are going to do? And it's posed a real challenge. For folk in Pennsylvania, if you've served your time, you actually get your voting rights back. And so, you have to re-register and everything. But, it's just a way to intimidate more Black and brown folk and poor white folk, too. We need to say that, too, that are, unable to get access to the ballot. Because here's the thing that I always appreciate. Well, I don't appreciate, but I mean, it's just the ruthlessness of white supremacy. right? White supremacy will throw poor white folk under the bus for the sake of, oppressing other black and brown folk, right? And that's just tragic. That's just absolutely tragic.
Calculated decision. It's
You
worth the
know,
risk for them.
people talk about loyalty, like there is no loyalty.
No.
There's no loyalty. So it is that's a real challenge. So we're going to be praying. I know we have folk in Texas that are colleagues of Faith in Texas that are going to be working on this issue and trying to address this and help folk figure out what they have to do to help, not only Hervis Rogers, but probably there are hundreds of others. I'm sure that they are probably scanning their rolls right now. In much the same way that they want to scan the rolls, the voting rolls here in Philadelphia and other places. State Senator Doug Mastriano, who happened to be at the January 6th insurrection from Pennsylvania, wants Philadelphia, Montgomery County, and Pittsburgh's voting polls. They want to audit our voting in those three counties. Yeah.
Also we think about all the poll workers. I mean, it's already or not the poll workers, but people working on GOTV. It just makes life a lot harder, and that's a huge initiative for us. It just makes life difficult, and they know that this is very purposeful, as you said.
Yeah, we had to get Khadija Kenner and our own political director, Kendra Cochran, on to have more conversation about some of the stuff that's happening here in Pennsylvania. It's just dastardly about voting, because they're on top of this. They're like, constantly watching everything that's going on. But this is absolutely ridiculous. Why are folks so freaking paranoid? That's what I cannot understand. They're just like, oh, we're going to go and stop folk from voting. We want to make sure that their votes don't count.
Is it paranoid or is it calculated? I mean, if you're looking at it from the other side, it is a very calculated move. Republicans didn't even bother coming up with a platform. They just went back in time and just served up some old goodies.
Yeah, that's because Trump was busy reading Mein Kampf, which was, the book about white supremacy in Germany. But it's not really original.
No, they have to do this. When they say that they feel like they're being replaced and they're losing this country, yeah, that's the real thing. That's like actually happening. So I'd rather be the few with power,
Well, I mean, it's actually kind of interesting, right? Because one thing that they've always never wanted is minority rule. And now that they're going to be in the minority, they're trying to create minority rule. Mm-hmm. And, it's quite tragic, to say the least. I don't know. This stuff just drives me absolutely insane.
Yes.
And I don't really always know what to do with that. But instead
we have our faith to fall back on.
Yes, we do, indeed. Yes, we do. But instead of investing money in children in poverty and all those things, Virgin Galactic President Richard Branson flies to space yesterday.
Don't you love Richard Branson, though? Like, don't you love him?
He's the anti-CEO. I mean, I will give him that, right?
Yes.
He is. He's definitely the anti. So this is the founder of Virgin Records, and eventually started Virgin Everything. Mm-hmm. If you might have had a Virgin cell phone at some point in history, it was because of Richard Branson. And the 71-year-old billionaire started Virgin Galactic so that he could provide rides to the rich and famous, so that they could go up to the very edge of space. And Saturday, a group of them, he flew in his own spaceship 64 miles into the air and went into space for the very first time, 71 years old. The only man older than him to go into space was John Glenn, who took a ride on the space shuttle when he was 77 years old, former senator and astronaut John Glenn. And so they went up in space. They spent billions to go into space.
Rich people problems. And him and Bezos probably were going back and forth. He got this done, 6 days before?
Yeah, Bezos is going up in a couple of days. But then Elon Musk was there when it happened as well. Elon was down in
Oh,
Elion, or
Musk,
whatever.
yeah.
I'm saying his name wrong, but he was there watching as Branson was in the air coming back down to the earth. And, Bezos and Branson were going back and forth. Branson didn't plan on going to the fall, heard Bezos was doing this, decided that he was going to go first and go up into space, and then went higher because Bezos is only looking to go around I think the 50-mile mark, and
Right.
Branson went up around 64 miles. So
Can you
yeah,
imagine this is the
well,
competition with you and your friends? Like,
this is like,
this is the competition with you and your friends, space travel, word. Like,
I mean, the billions, the tens and billions, probably hundreds of billions that have been spent on them trying to run the space race. And the ticket to be able to go up is going to be about $250,000, $250,000 for a ride that lasts all of 15 minutes. Um, that's kind of deep. When there's, food shortages, when people are out of work,
just
when,
saying
it's
that.
hungry, there's homeless all over the place. But no, we're going to spend billions so we can send people who are really rich for joy rides.
It is incredible the worlds, the light years of difference in the worlds of people. Yeah, that was one of the first things I thought about. Like, wow, what a great way to just blow money. How is this, helping us as a people? But all of the people involved do give massive amounts of money to charity.
They do. Well, actually, Jeff Bezos' ex-wife is giving massive
Jeff,
amounts
okay,
of
yeah.
money to charity right now. I don't know that Jeff
How
Bezos is actually doing that,
how much do
but I
you
know
think
his
that
wife
bothers
is
him?
giving away a lot of money.
How much do you think that just bugs him?
I can't imagine. First of all, he got half, right? So
Yeah,
he got
but
half
still.
everything. And then, Mackenzie Scott, some of you are aware Mackenzie Scott is the ex-wife of Jeff Bezos, who is is the richest woman in the world, is married now to a school teacher. And her school teacher husband quit with her to help her give away hundreds of billions of dollars that she has. And so she's been writing checks over the last year. I think she's given away like $8 billion, and she is really trying to give away as much money as possible because she doesn't want it. And,
Yeah.
and so she's been pouring it into organizations and foundations. I mean, I think it would bother me.
It kind of, it dry. And then the fact that she's with a school teacher, I'm this big, powerful, richest person, and she marries a school teacher.
I don't know though. I mean, but if you have that much money, you can't spend all that money, right? So
No,
at
she
what
has
point?
no fear of
I mean,
ever
Jeff
being broke.
Bezos, the fortune was cut almost in half, and he's still the richest man in the world, right? This,
Right.
I think, it's second or the first richest man in the world. So does it really bother him that much?
I mean, it's not a fear of him ever going broke. At his level of income, he can live off of just the fact that he has this money sitting in banks and, earning for him. But yeah, I would think it bothers him a little bit.
I mean, the one thing I have to say is that she had been a partner with him every step of the way, right? So when he was the CEO, she was the secretary, she was doing
Right.
stuff, she was started the shipping, she was helping with the books. Every step of the way, she's been very much a part of the business. So I get, her getting that half,
Hmm.
and I'm sure there's a whole lot of sisters out there like, look, she had to do all kinds of things just to be with it. No, she needs to get half. I
Listen,
get
she
you.
was
I
with
hear
him
you.
shooting in the gym, Bishop. Okay, she was with him shooting in the gym, so that's very important.
So she
She was there
was,
from the beginning.
she got her half, and but it is. I have to admit though, there were moments when I'm sitting there like, I know he's got to be stewing about that. I know he's got to be
Course.
stewing about the
Of
fact
course.
because she's like, I'm giving it all away. It's just like Warren Buffett's kids, right? He's pretty much said, I'm not leaving you a dime, and
Yeah.
most of them are millionaires already anyway. So he's trying to give away his fortune as well. So, and I think it's the same thing for what Microsoft found, the Gates family of
Yeah.
Bill and Melinda Gates, right? Well, now they've split, but they're not like trying to leave a lot of money to their kids. The kids got stuff already, and they're
Yeah.
grown at this point. So,
Oprah actually, she makes really good comments about that. At a certain level of wealth, you do start to become introspective and kind of look at your contribution to the larger world, I think that starts to hit you. But yeah.
Well, I hope you start to look at it and ask the question, are you making the world better or are you making it worse?
Right.
That's the other thing, because I just want to say that, Jeff Bezos is feeding people shopping addictions. That exists all around the world.
And all that money, you could pay people decent wages and give them health care.
That would be really good. As a matter of fact, there was an article in the Inquirer today about how the Amazon workers here have doubled the injury rate than, how warehouse workers around the country. And I'm like, that's really problematic. Somebody should seriously be looking into that to figure out what's going on.
They're pushing too hard.
Yeah. Anyway, we're up on our next break, and we appreciate everybody that's checking us out and listening to us today. You are listening to Dwayne Royster and special guest co-host Selena Singleton. We'll be right back.
Get in and get seen at the Einstein Orthopedics Fracture Care Clinic. If you think you've broken a bone or have been told by your doctor that you have a fracture, the Einstein Fracture Care Clinic offers same-day, in-person, or telehealth appointments. We don't just give you peace of mind. Einstein Orthopedics provides answers when you need them. Visit einstein.edu/fracturecare to learn more.
The Holistic Colonoscopy. No IV sedation. Your colonoscopy is due. You don't have someone to drive you home. You don't want to drink the prep. You don't want to be sedated with the Michael Jackson drug propofol. Does that sound like you? Call Blake Gastroenterology at 215-849-4902. Visit the website www.jsblake.com and make your appointment today. Drive yourself home after the Holistic Colonoscopy.
For the past 10 years, Comcast has been helping students get ready. We've connected 5 million students from low-income families to low-cost, high-speed internet. We're working with both nonprofit partners and city leaders to create over 1,000 Wi-Fi connected lift zones in community centers nationwide. And now we're committing $1 billion to reach 50 million people with the connectivity, skills, training, and the resources they need to succeed in a digital world. Learn more at comcast.com/education.
Now, a traffic update on WURD Radio.
Good morning. This report sponsored by America's Best Contacts and Eyeglasses. Not a bad ride here in the Philadelphia area as of yet. Looking at 95 south by Confidential Bridge, getting heavy through the construction. Again, Betsy Ross through Girard. Normal volume building there. Northbound side looks good. Westbound Vine Expressway, Lake Parkway through the Schuylkill Expressway. Schuylkill westbound, Broad to Passyunk, getting heavy through that construction zone. Eastbound, looking good so far this morning. Southbound Boulevard, Route 1, volume building. Broad down to Wissahickon through that work zone. 55 northbound Deptford into 42 now, beginning to jam there just a bit. Don't overpay for glasses. Get 2 pairs at a free exam for just $69.95. The exam alone is worth $50. That's not just a better deal, it's America's best. Book your exam online today. In certain states, eye exams are provided by independent ophthalmologists. See store for details. For more traffic information, log on to sigalert.com. Jim Bachman with your Philadelphia area traffic.
You're listening to WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD, independent black media.
Welcome back to the Power Hour. This is Dwayne Royster, along with special guest co-host Selena Singleton, who's here with us today. Just a reminder, the Reverend Dr. Mark Kelly Tyler will be back here with us tomorrow morning. He's recovering and returning from AME General Conference. It's been a very busy few days for him, so we said take the day off, and we will hold it down until you can get back into the studio. So just a couple of things. Sheila has said, look, it's definitely their money to spend, but there's something so very immoral about considering the sorry state of the world, no doubt. Raphael said the elite in the world now has more money than their great-grandchildren can spend in one lifetime. I believe that without a shadow of a doubt. And then he said we have to do something about the gross inequity in the wealth inequality in this country. I agree with that. I believe that we need to have a reverse a transfer of wealth in this country, to be honest with you. Because, the last few years, they've showed that the last 10 years, there's been the greatest wealth transfer in this country, right? So rich folk are getting richer, poor folk getting poorer, and basically they're getting rich off the backs of poor folk in this country. And we need to figure out. I mean, Jeff Bezos is the perfect example of that. Amazon packages flying everywhere.
Right.
Right. He continues to make more money, but most of the time it's because folk are buying products through him, but they're not getting rich from buying products from him.
No.
But he's getting richer through the whole process. So it's a wealth transfer, right? It's taking wealth out of one community and putting it not only in another community, but putting it in an individual. So that they are able to thrive. And, with all the billions that he has, actually projected he could be the world's first trillionaire, why can't he pay his workers $15 an hour plus, great wages and let them get unionized? I'm just saying. They spent hundreds, they spent millions of dollars trying to fight the union that was trying to organize down in the South in Alabama from organizing an Amazon warehouse. Why do you fight it? Why do you fight a union coming in if you know that you're treating? The only reason you do it is because you know the way you're treating your workers, no union is going to stand for it.
Right. Absolutely. It takes personal sacrifice from us to make that happen. We've done it in the past, but who's going to stop buying from Amazon?
For real. Amazon, Whole Foods, everything else that they own at the same time.
And it's been worse in the past. We have internet now. What about when you had to worry about just the big guy that was in your town? Own the grocery store, the this, the that, and you had no choice but to deal with that person.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That you had to buy from them because you didn't have anybody else you could buy from.
That was it. That was
it. And they treat
now
you
we
any
have
kind
choices.
of way, too.
Yep, absolutely. And they're doing the exact same thing, and we have 1,000,001 choices, and we just fall in line with whatever the biggest choice is, It'll take personal sacrifice on us to actually do something about that.
We need a black Amazon.
Yes.
There's black Twitter, there's black Facebook. Why can't we have a black Amazon?
But think about it, Bishop. You start a black Amazon, the prices might not be as aggressive as the real Amazon. Are you going to stick with it? It takes personal sacrifice for us to make these things happen. I hear people talking about small black businesses, criticizing them and things like that. They got to grow. They got to get better. We have to take the personal sacrifice to make these things happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Jay Gardner made this point. He said, and Bezos is able to use infrastructure regulations and policing that he doesn't pay for. It's actually interesting. The story just came out the other day that Jeff Bezos was out there talking about, you should tax rich people. You should tax us more. We should pay more for our fair share. And then they did a discovery that Amazon hired all these lobbyists to prevent taxes from going up on rich individuals and corporations at the same time.
Wow.
So, you talk about hypocrisy at its highest, right? I'm out here. He's the big billionaire. Oh, tax me, take more of my money. It's okay. Tax my company. And then all of a sudden, his company, on the other hand, which he runs continually now, chair of the board, CEO, all this stuff, is actually hiring lobbyists to not pay taxes, to not see him get charged more money, right? That are working in Washington behind the scenes to make sure that he doesn't pay more money. Do we not see that as problematic? Do we not see that as a real challenge? Do we not see that is like the system being skewed for one individual?
They're always peeing on us and telling us it's raining. They get away with it.
Not helpful.
Not helpful at all. You're
not
absolutely
helpful.
right.
I mean, it's just it's and because he gets out there and makes a big publicity stunt, people are like, oh, that's why I shop at Amazon. Forget that he's treating his workers bad. Forget that his workers during the course of the epidemic actually had to go to the bathroom in their trucks. Point of fact, they had to go to the bathroom in their trucks because a lot of places were closed down. There weren't places for them to stop and go, so they had to take jars and other containers with them to be able to go to the bathroom while they were there. This was actually one of the issues that came up in the union campaign. And originally, Amazon's like, absolutely not, absolutely not. And then they discovered the records that were telling the workers what to do because they could not have access to restroom facilities while they were out and about. So they had to, go to the bathroom in their trucks. That's a whole nother story.
I never heard of that. That is...
But of course, they didn't want you to hear that. That was like a story I found, and it was specifically related to the union organizing campaign.
Right.
because the union had brought this up. And so it was mostly discussed in Alabama, not up north. And so we didn't hear about it. It wasn't for the fact that I was doing research on the organizing campaign that was happening down there and how that got shot down. I would never have known that information because it was very well hidden.
That is
Very well hidden.
unbelievable. I know they were having major issues with just getting PPE to like equipment to their people during the pandemic. Remember all the reports about that?
The people that shipped the PPE, that delivered the PPE,
I didn't even think of that. I didn't even think of that.
I mean, I'm just saying, I don't fully understand. I can't totally comprehend.
This ain't for you, though.
Make sure the customer get that. Don't take one out Don't take one out the box. Don't take it out the box. So that is that's a thing. It's just a whole thing. So anyway, we have a lot of work that we have to do, and really try to get some of these things addressed, to address taxes, address structure. But this is part of the reason why we have to have these conversations around race. We need to have a conversation around economics. We have to have a conversation around education, around, work safety. It's all these things that are conspiring to keep our folk pinned down.
Yes.
It's all this stuff. And it's deeply tragic and very painful. And, we got a lot of work ahead of us, That's why power exists.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right? We're trying to fight these battles. Can we just get what the governor offered, $1.5 billion on public education funding and 100% fair funding formula instead of the $300 million that everybody's acting like is something fantastic, when we get $200 to $400 million every year more in education funding. That's nothing fantastic, folks. I hate to, and I know that people out there are like, oh, we got all this special money for equity. Okay, if the funding formula were to work in the state of Pennsylvania correctly for education, Philadelphia would get an extra $400 million a year. Right now, with the special little bit of money, I think they're getting like $26 million. $26 million, $400 million. Dr. King said, we can't wait. Incrementalism does not work. And somehow or another, we've got white progressives that think that incrementalism is the way to go. It is not the way to go. It is tragic. It is when we have a $10 billion surplus in the state fund that could have taken just $1.5 billion of it, could have leveled out, not leveled up, but leveled out every school district in the state of Pennsylvania, where black and brown children in school districts would have seen hundreds of millions of dollars going into, not 100 million, hundreds, billions of dollars going into their districts that could have made a world of difference. And, everybody running around patting themselves on the back, talking about how wonderful this little $100 million is chump change compared to that budget. That budget was $50 billion.
Right.
Chump change.
Yeah.
Chump change.
Sad. The children lose in this scenario.
Yes. But I hear Robert Garland, who says you got to still find the black joy in it all. But
yes, Robert.
And everybody else, let me just say that black girl magic and black boy joy is going to find and win the day. Because the beautiful thing about the resilience of the black community is that we will always rise. We will always rise. We will come against everything that everybody throws against us. And because of what the divine has put inside of us, at the end of the day, we will still be standing, smiling, have a dance in our feet and a song in our heart, and we will get up and keep on moving. We're going to do the do.
Amen.
So, everybody, I appreciate you. We just talk about these issues because we need to know about them, because if you don't know what your enemy is doing, you can't beat them. And
1,000%.
I debated in high school and college, and I know that's always been a joke on this show, but I really did. But one thing my debate coach taught me very early on is that you better know your enemy better than the enemy knows themselves. And so, I do a lot of study about what other people are doing and thinking and how they're acting, because you can't counteract them if you don't know what they're going to do. And so I find joy in finding ways to put the light on their plans and then finding a way to destroy it. so that our people are able to thrive and live their full best lives. All right, everybody. Well, that's it for us on this Monday, July 12th edition of the Power Hour. Special thanks to Selena Singleton, host of the Spicy Pecan podcast. You can check her out on YouTube under Spicy Pecan and do that. And she's also part of the Power staff and team, and we really appreciate you being here with us. The Reverend Dr. Mark Kelly Tyler will be back here with us tomorrow. Thank you for Koisa for holding down the boards and making sure that we were on the air and doing everything that we needed to do this morning. Thank you to everybody that listened to us on the air, through the app, through the internet, those that checked us out through Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. I'm sorry, Twitch, we didn't get to you today. My apologies. And everybody that has even listened to us on Alexa. Hey, Alexa, turn on WURD Radio. Now, listen, stay tuned now for Wake Up with WURD with Solomon Jones. And family, do us a favor. Go out. Change the damn world. Because if you don't, nobody else will. Peace.
Peace.